Hello, friends. Now I will tell you a story about a guy named Brandon. He is really into collecting clothing and always knows where to find the trendiest items. One day, in one of the stores, Brandon found himself an unusual friend. It's a very interesting story, and now I will tell it to you. Brandon, a passionate clothing collector, always strived to stay up to date with the latest fashion trends. He spent a lot of time in stores, sincerely enjoying the process of finding unique and stylish wardrobe pieces. One ordinary day, after Brandon had visited all his favorite stores, he noticed a person who stood out from the crowd with their rare and mesmerizing sneakers, exactly the kind Brandon had been dreaming of for a long time. Unable to resist, he approached the stranger to express his admiration. It turned out that the person's name was Peter, and he was also a passionate clothing collector. With a smile, Peter offered to trade sneakers with Brandon. He would give away his rarities while buying new models for himself. Brandon was filled with gratitude and admiration for Peter's generosity. Peter invited Brandon to a private party taking place in the park at night. He told him about a secret gathering where people who owned the rarest clothing items gathered for exchange and inspiration. Intrigued and excited about the prospect of attending such an event, Brandon gladly accepted the invitation. The long-awaited night arrived, and Brandon met Peter in the park. There, he discovered a small group of people dressed in the most extravagant and unique outfits. Brandon felt like he had entered another world where fashion and style reigned supreme. He was engrossed in conversations and exchanging opinions on fashion trends with other party attendees. Suddenly, Peter stood before the entire group and announced that Brandon had shown enough interest and passion for fashion to become part of their special gang. However, before he could become a full-fledged member of this secret group, he had to undergo an initiation ritual. Brandon, incredibly intrigued and willing to embrace any challenges, agreed to the proposal. He closed his eyes, felt a slight pain in his neck, and then realized that everyone at the party were vampires. Brandon joined them and became one of them. Now, as a vampire, Brandon gained new abilities and perspectives. He no longer needed sleep or food and could fully dedicate himself to his passion, collecting clothing. But Brandon began to realize that his new life as a vampire had its consequences. He could no longer enjoy the sunlight as its rays burned him, and he was tormented by an insatiable thirst that he could only quench at night by hunting wild animals. But it was too late to change anything, and now he was forever doomed to be different, to exist within the circle of vampires and hide from humans who shouldn't know about the existence of vampires among ordinary people. Now I will tell you the story of a little girl named Darcy. Since childhood, she had an imaginary friend whom only she could see. It's a very interesting story, and now I will tell it to you. When Darcy went to kindergarten, she once noticed a boy standing not far behind her, watching her intently. Darcy felt a little scared, but decided to introduce herself to the stranger. However, something suddenly distracted her attention, and when she turned back, the boy was already gone. She tried to find him among the other children, but without success. At night, when Darcy was almost falling asleep, she briefly opened her eyes due to strange noises and saw the same boy. But despite this, she wasn't afraid. The stranger greeted her and introduced himself, saying his name was Harry. Since then, Harry and Darcy became inseparable friends, spending every day together. They grew up together, but Darcy always had a special connection with Harry. She gradually realized that Harry was a ghost whom only she could see and hear. But that didn't hinder their friendship. On the contrary, Harry was always there, helping her, saving her life, providing support in difficult moments, and assisting with her studies. They were best friends who couldn't be separated. One day, Darcy met a boy whom she fell in love with. Harry started to become jealous of her newfound love interest and tried to interfere with their meetings. This greatly upset Darcy, and in her anger, she wished for Harry never to appear again. And at that moment, Harry disappeared. At first, Darcy thought it was a joke, but time passed and Harry didn't return. A whole year went by, and every day she prayed for his return. However, she gradually began to accept his absence, yet she always felt the absence of such a wonderful friend. One day, while walking near the daycare center where she grew up and first met Harry, she burst into tears from the overwhelming emotions and suddenly lost consciousness. When she woke up, she found herself at home in her bed, and standing beside her was her best friend Harry. It turned out that the daycare center was a special place where heartfelt wishes came true, and thanks to that, Harry returned to Darcy. She was immensely happy, and they never parted again. The story of Darcy and Harry is a story of true friendship that overcomes all obstacles and temporary separations. They proved that true friendship can be eternal, even if one of the friends is a ghost visible only to one person. Now, I will tell you the story of a girl named Marana. She is not an ordinary person and ended up in the Avatar world when she was a baby. This is one of the most extraordinary stories, and I will now tell it to you. One night, Charles and Elsa heard strange sounds in the hallway of their house. They were already asleep and thought they were imagining things, but the sound repeated, and Charles decided to investigate. Carefully descending the stairs, he saw a small stone near the front door and heard crying. To his surprise, The lump turned out to be a small baby girl. Mirana, as they named the child, had a unique violet color. Next to her was a note asking them to take care of her. Charles and Elsa welcomed Mirana into their family and raised her, despite her uniqueness. As the years went by, Mirana grew up and went to school. However, the local children did not accept her because she was different. Instead of being saddened by this, Mirana found solace in spending time alone and walking through the forest at night, gazing at the stars. One day, while Mirana was once again gazing at the sky, she noticed a strange shimmering and heard someone calling her name from behind. Turning around, she saw a person who looked just like her. This mysterious stranger turned out to be her father. Mirana was amazed and asked why he had come for her only now. Her father explained that their home planet had been destroyed many years ago, and he had sent Mirana in a rescue pod to the nearest planet with civilization. All this time, he had been searching for his daughter. That's when Mirana made the decision to go with her father and meet Charles and Elsa, the people who had always cared for her. The reunion was touching, and they agreed that Mirana would regularly visit her adoptive family. Thus, Mirana was reunited with her true family, despite all the peculiarities that set her apart from others. This story of Mirana, of adventures, family, and finding one's place in the world, became one of the most extraordinary and heartwarming stories in the Avatar world. The story of a girl named Joan. She loves books so much that she became a writer. Almost no one read her works, but everything changed after a strange incident. It's a very amazing story, and I will now tell it to you. Joan is a girl who has always adored books, and her passion for reading inspired her to become a writer. However, her writing was relatively unknown, and critics had negative reviews of her works. One day, something strange happened that changed everything. Disappointed by the reception of her writings, Joan decided to turn to dark forces. She went to a crossroad at midnight and summoned the devil. To her surprise, the devil appeared before her. He was displeased to be summoned to Avatar World, but Joan was not afraid. She saw it as an opportunity to make a name for herself with the help of black magic. Joan told the devil about her dream of becoming a famous writer. The devil laughed and agreed to help her, warning her that her books would become prophecies. Not fully understanding what that meant, Joan agreed to the deal. She wrote a book about mythical creatures and a magical world, and her book sold out on the first day. But the next day, when Joan went for a walk, she discovered a strange creature resembling a dragon from her book, scaring people around. She realized that what the devil had warned her about had come true. She understood that she had inadvertently prophesied future events in her books. With fear and remorse, Joan returned to the crossroad, hoping to undo her wish. However, it was already too late. The deal had been made, and the consequences were irreversible. She cried, realizing the foolishness of her actions. Suddenly, Joan woke up and found herself behind her writing desk. It had all been just a dream, but the plot turned out to be perfect for a new book. She realized that she had the opportunity to learn from it and write her best work, which helped her become famous in Avatar World without any negative consequences. Thus, from this unusual dream, Joan emerged with a new plot and wrote her magnificent book. She continued to have similar dreams, which she immediately transferred onto sheets of paper, edited, and printed. All her new works became hits and served as an example for young writers to emulate. But the devil no longer appeared in Joan's dreams.